Hey guys, it's Kelly here from Spiritual Awakening Signs, coming to you today with a video all about energy clearing and energy clearing methods, and we're also going to cover key signs that the home space or the living space that you're in actually needs energy clearing now. The fact that it needs to actually be cleared. So you'll be able to look at our little list of signs and see what resonates with you, and you'll know by the end of this video if your space is needing some clearing, and you'll also know the top methods that we tend to use, the pros and cons of each of them, and what I consider to be the best method for energy clearing, particularly during spiritual awakening, because it's a little bit different for us. So I'll be covering all of that in the video. So I can see a few people have joined us already. Please say hello, let me know who you are and where you're from, and thank you for joining us today. And we're going to get into all this stuff about space clearing. It's really exciting, it's really interesting, and it is a vital part of your spiritual awakening survival kit, and I really mean that. I would not have made it this far without space clearing, and I would have been in a much worse mental space. It's not just about physical space around you, mental space in my mind. So hi, I can see that Enchantée has joined us from Russellville. Awesome, thanks for joining us. And anyone else, please say hello, let me know who you are and where you're from. I'd love to hear from you guys. I can see that Shelley has joined us from Arkansas. Hi Shelley, fantastic. So we're going to get into some of these top signs, because what I am aware of is that it's not always abundantly clear if your space actually needs cleansed. It can be tough to tell. So there are 6 kind of key signs that we're working with: that you're living in toxic negative environment, that you are living in lower vibrations, and I'm going to go through some of those just in a moment. But it's important for you to know that this is a really vital part of your spiritual awakening toolkit, so to speak. It's something that you're going to need to do all the time, because we are sensitive to energy. When we go through spiritual awakening, and particularly if you tend to be empathic, if you tend to be more of a sensitive soul, you are actually being impacted by this energy all the time, and not everyone is. Most people in the world, particularly if they're not going through awakening, it's no big deal if they don't do space clearing. It doesn't really tend to have that much of an effect. But for those of us going through spiritual awakening, it makes it really tough. So let's get into some of these signs. So first couple of signs, we're talking about that your home space needs cleared, or that you're living in toxic negative energy. So we're talking about the environment round about you energetically. So you feel low, moody or bothered. You know that feeling where it's just like, I'm just not happy. It's like just a little bit off. I'm just not happy. So low, moody or bothered is the first sign. You feel trapped, or you have a heightened sense of others living nearby. So by that I mean having a sense of who's living through the wall, who your next door neighbours are, or maybe even feeling like their energy is kind of enclosing in on you, that you can pick up what's going on in their field, you can pick up on their bad vibes. That would be another really big sign. Sometimes we just know, we just have that feeling. You might be finding it difficult to shift your emotional state. Another huge sign that your space needs cleared, because it affects the emotions. It's not just about the energy. The energy ends up affecting your emotional state. So you start getting into bad moods, you start feeling dissatisfied, or you just feel off and you're not sure why. It's like something's not right. I don't know what it is. I just feel a little bit bothered today. Energy needs cleared. Might also be that you're experiencing frequent conflict or disharmony with others in your home, or that other people in your home are constantly in conflict and disharmony. It's because they're picking up on the energy. Like I said, the energy affects your emotions, so it starts to put them into bad moods. It starts to make us kind of low level irritable and have less patience, because we're feeling the impact of this really heavy energy, and it's bothering us. You know, on the soul level, it's bothering you. You want to just shake it off and be free, but you're not always fully in touch with the fact that that's happening. Another sign is that your space, or your home space, your living space, whatever it is you're spending most of your time in, it feels unclean, untidy or uncomfortable no matter what you do. So you know that way where you're like, this room doesn't feel right, and maybe you clear it all out, you tidy it all, you bring in nice candles, or you try to make the environment nicer, and it's like still just doesn't really feel that good. It's not as much of a shift as I was hoping for. Big sign that space needs cleared. And the last sign that I always tell people, and empaths, people going through spiritual awakening, and sensitive souls like us, you just know. There's just a part of you somewhere that's like, I just feel like this needs cleared. It feels like a hunch, feels like you're just guessing, but it's because somewhere deep down you actually know the space needs cleared, okay? So please do let me know if you resonate with any of what we've just gone through in our list. Do you think that your home space needs cleared? Do you notice any of these conflict patterns, these bad mood ruts that, maybe you're in constant anxiety every day, or maybe you're feeling irritable every day, or moody, your moods are changing, or you see it in the home around you with other people. So do let us know below if you're seeing that, sensing that, experiencing that, or of course, if you just know. Some of us just know. I can see on Shantae says, yes, I do. She's definitely feeling it, so that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so Maria as well says, yes, she's recognising that. We do, we're very sensitive. We pick up on energy, so our energetic environment is really, really important. And more than that, I'm not going to go into too much about it. You can watch our free masterclass if you want to learn more, but more than that, it's about getting yourself out of the energetic cycles that we get stuck in awakening. Because as all this emotion and all this stuff starts to burn off of us, it's leaving our energetic space. Guess where it goes? It goes into the space around us, and negative energy is really sticky. It doesn't want to go. So you're burning off all this energy, and as part of awakening, you're getting free of it. You're starting to move forward. You're starting to become unstuck, and all that negative energy just settles in the space around you. And if you don't clear it, basically you are living in a toxic negative environment, so you're just going to get caught up in the same patterns, emotions and bad feelings all over again. So it's really stopping you from moving forward on your awakening, because you would already be free if you were just space clearing. You would only have to go through it once if you just did the space clearing. So keep your environment cleansed, happy, spiritual, all those other things. I can see Gina's asking, how do I clear it? We're just about to get into that. I've got lots of different methods that you can use. Some that are easy, some that you may not have tried before, but we're going to go through the most common ones that we tend to see and what you can do to change the space in a room. Because you do know you can energy cleanse a room even if you're not sure if it needs energy cleansed. You'll never have a negative result from energy cleansing just whenever you feel like it. I used to energy cleanse every single day because it made a difference to me. It made me feel like the space was right for me. So it's fine to do it whenever you feel that you need it. So let's get into some of these space clearing techniques. Okay, so the list that we've got, the first one I'm going to bring up would be sage. So saging is really popular. Sage comes in big sticks. You've probably seen it before, big sticks. It looks a bit like something you would start a fire with, but it's like a collection of twigs of sage essentially, usually tied up with some string. It comes in a big bunch, and you light the end of it, and you blow the flame out so that it's just smoking, right? So this kind of piece of collected wood, I suppose, is just smoking. And you take it through the room that you're in, and you make sure that you get in all the corners. You can go fancy with it. I have one of these lovely big shells. You can buy them usually in spiritual stores. Big shell and a big feather, because it's just fun. And then you can take it into all the rooms. You can kind of waft it into the corners, into the areas where it's difficult to feel that you're getting any sort of cleanse, in all the little corners. And you let the smoke emanate through the room, and it dissolves the negative energy and really performs a great clearing for you. So sage is very, very popular, and it definitely does work. But with all of these, I'm going to go through the pros and cons so that you know everything you need to know. So first thing you need to know is you don't need to have a shell and a feather. I'm just being a bit extra, and I just like doing the ceremony when I do it. You don't need to do that. You can just burn the sage with a lighter and waft it with your hand, waft it into the corners and waft it into the space around you. Now, the positive thing about sage is that it definitely does clear negative energy, okay? The downside is that it tends to have quite a dense energy, and if you're sensitive, you'll pick up on it. It's quite a dense energy, it's quite a heavy energy, it can feel a little bit like a presence, and I personally found that a wee bit too intense for going through awakening, so it's not something that I tend to use very often. And of course the smell is very strong. Now it's all right in the beginning. I tend to find I quite like the smell in the beginning, but it sticks to everything. So you really need to be able to do it in a day where you can air your, have the windows open, air the place out, and then maybe spray with some essential oils or something afterwards, because it tends to really stick to everything. It can be a bit heavy for those of us who are very sensitive to energy, but everybody's a little bit different, so who knows? I'm going to go through all of these. The second one I would recommend is incense. So incense, you can literally just burn it. You'll see it, it's just the little thin sticks and they kind of break away to ash. You just light the stick, you blow out the flame. Once it's got a little kind of glowing at the end of it, blow it out, you let the smoke fill the room. And the great thing about those is you can kind of leave it in a little holder and it'll just smoke away until it's done. And of course, it smells a bit better than sage because there are nice scents usually through it, which is quite nice. So it can be quite pleasant to put into your environment. The downside is the incense is a bit like sage light. It's not quite as strong as sage, but it doesn't have such a heavy energy. So it can be quite good to use if you just want just a light clearing or you want to just make the room feel better. It can certainly help. But there are downsides to all these methods, and I'm going to make sure I cover everything so that you know, because it's a little bit different for those of us going through spiritual awakening. Number 3 would be essential oils. Essential oils you can make into a room spray, so that's something I used to do. Fill up a spray bottle with water and put maybe 10 to 12 drops of an essential oil in with the water, give it a shake, and then you can spray it throughout the room. You can spray it on the curtains, or just be careful if it's really heavy oils, you don't want to stain anything. You can spray it into the air, and the essential oils will help to lift the energy of the room and clear things out, which is really nice. It's nice to have those nice scents around us as well, and it's quite easy to do and quite inexpensive. The downside is that it can be ungrounding and it can be aggravating to your energies if you're going through spiritual awakening. So there's a reason why I don't usually recommend most of these methods. I'm going to cover that. I don't tend to recommend the traditional methods, but I know a few people had asked about it, so I wanted to cover this in a video today so that you know all the options that are available and you can make a choice that's right for you. But essential oils, if you're going through spiritual awakening, if you're particularly ungrounded, or if your symptoms are quite intense, like maybe your emotions are quite intense, your moods are quite intense, your sensitivity is quite high, you maybe want to avoid some of these methods because it will make your awakening symptoms worse, make them more intense. Okay. Number 4 would be crystals. So a lot of people use crystals for clearing. All you need to do is you choose a crystal that resonates with you. You put it around the room wherever you want. You might have it in the centre of the room, or you might have a few dotted throughout. That's absolutely fine. The vibration of the crystals is the thing that is clearing the energy from the space. But what I would say is that they're less really for space clearing and more just for creating a different vibration in a room. So a lot of people recommend them for space clearing. I personally feel that they're more of something that you might put in after space clearing if you just want to create a nice ambience in the room, or you want to change the vibration of the room a little bit. That can be helpful. The downside again is if you're going through spiritual awakening, it's very ungrounding to have crystals in your space. So if you're experiencing intense symptoms with your spiritual awakening, I would be inclined to avoid using crystals, because it can definitely, while they're lovely to have around, they're really nice, you need to get yourself to a really grounded place in your awakening where you're managing it really quite well before you can introduce them back in. I'm in a space now where I can have crystals. Sometimes you'll see me, I wear crystal bracelets. I'm okay with it now. But if I start to get ungrounded or my awakening becomes more challenging, I take a break from them, because it will absolutely aggravate the energies, and you want to be careful with that. Number 5 would be a singing bowl. Now I would say if you're really dead set on using a physical method to do space clearing, which is kind of the old way, but if it's what you want to do, that's okay. A singing bowl would probably be the best recommendation I would have for spiritual awakening if you have to use a physical product. Because it's really easy. You order one, you can get them online. It's just a lovely, it's just a bowl. It's quite decorative. You get a little wooden stick with it, and you just hit it on the side, and you allow the sound and the vibration to do the clearing in the room. And actually, when I did a lot of my energy healing training, this is what the teacher would use to clear the room after we'd all been doing healing on each other and all that energy was sitting in the room, making it heavy and dense. She would, hit that like a gong, and the vibration and the sound would resonate through and clear the room out. So I would say that they're more compatible with spiritual awakening because it's not aggravating to your energies. A singing bowl is safe to use. The downside is you need to hit it quite a lot. You can't just really do just one hit and then hope that it's going to dissolve all the energy throughout the room. And of course it only works in one room at a time, so you would need to go through each room, which became a bit of a problem for me because I'm sure that the neighbours and other people were like, what is she doing in there? She's going around like hitting the gong. And it can annoy neighbours, it can annoy other people that live in your home, because you really need to get into the corners and hit it. You need to hit it quite hard so that the vibration is quite loud and long to really dissolve the energy in the room. Okay, now I can see people are giving us questions. I will answer questions at the end. So out of those different space clearing techniques, they're all the physical techniques. So you've got sage, you've got incense, you've got essential oils, crystals, and you've got a singing bowl. They would be the most common methods. Okay, now I have another recommendation that I feel is best for spiritual awakening, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, with any of those methods, they absolutely will work. They will clear the space that you're in. The downside to using them, and this is specifically for those of us going through spiritual awakening, is it's not going to be enough. Okay, so if you use those methods, they will work, but they'll work for a day. I tend to find that the energy starts to fall back into the path of least resistance. So meaning that negative energy has been building over a long time. So you could use a singing bowl, or you could use crystals or essential oils or incense, whatever you wanted, in a room, and you would find that it would lift the energy for a day, but it tends to start to kind of drop back down, and then you're in the same energies. So the two problems that we've got with the traditional methods that I've just listed are that, one, they don't tend to last. So they don't reprogram the energy of the home space, so you're having to clear it all the time. That negative energy doesn't go away, it just becomes like an imprint, a blueprint for the space. And we know this because when we go back to places where something really terrible has happened in history, you feel the vibe. The vibe hasn't disappeared despite all that time. The energy imprint is still there. So even though nothing terrible may have happened in your home, that negative energy that's built up, that's been burning off of us, that you are releasing as part of spiritual awakening in your ascension pathway, has collected there. So it's going to take a bit more work to actively clear it, and to ensure that you don't get caught up in all those energies again. You want to get them cleared out, and you want to move on and move forward in awakening. So it means that you'll get stuck in a bit of a hamster wheel of constantly clearing every day. That's what happened to me. Every day it was like, oh God, I've got to burn more incense, I've got to use my singing bowl, I need crystals around the room. I had to go through so much effort just to try and make my space feel comfortable, and really for my soul to settle, because that's what's happening, your soul can't settle. So those methods do work, but they only work for about a day. It's going to revert back to normal, and you're going to get stuck doing it over and over and over again. The other problem that we've got with that, okay, because that's okay if you want to do that. I did go through a phase of time where I didn't mind burning incense every day. It wasn't any hardship. I was happy to do that. The other downside you've got is that most of those methods, apart from the singing bowl, they're all going to aggravate your energies, because when you go through spiritual awakening, anything that affects your energy system is going to aggravate your energies. It's going to kind of fire them up when they're already really fired up with the awakening process. It's a transformation, and your system is like on a kind of red alert. And anytime you introduce a crystal, an essential oil, incense, sage, anything else that impacts your energy, you are setting it alight. It is like a match to gasoline, and you need to remember that, because you need to do really good self-care, and that means good energetic self-care and good soul care while you're on this awakening pathway too. So you need to bear that in mind when you're using any of these techniques. That's usually why I don't tend to recommend them. However, everyone's a little bit different, but I would always err on the side of caution, because I know what it's like to become really ungrounded, and for all those challenges of awakening just to suddenly rise up and become a lot more tough, and you're wondering like, what's changed? It's because you're adding too many aggravators into your system, and you're making it a lot worse. So please bear that in mind when you're doing space clearing. You have to be very gentle during spiritual awakening, okay? Which leads me to what my best recommendation would be. And I can see any questions that we've got, I will answer that at the end, okay? So the best recommendation I would have would be to use energy clearing, use energy healing for the clearing, okay? And the reason why this is totally different is it's the only method that I have ever found that will not only clear the energy from the room, but it will replace it with something good, right? And that's the key thing here, because if that energy is always going to fall back into the path of least resistance, we could clear it with energy clearing, or some meditation, or some tones, or some music, or whatever it is. We could clear it, but it's going to fall back into that path. So what we need to do then is actually teach the space. It's like downloading and teaching the space how to have a higher vibration all the time. So that means that we can program your home space to have the feeling of peace, of tranquility, of harmony. That's going to affect the people within it. That it's a sacred space. Because you know that feeling, if you've ever been to like a Tibetan temple, or you've been to some of these spiritual places where people worship, or there's a lot of meditation, you walk in and you feel the energy of peacefulness. And I'm really lucky, because I've done this for so long and I've reprogrammed the space of my home, when people come in, they actually take a sigh. I see it all the time. It's like they walk in and it's like, oh, do you know, it's really peaceful in here. And it is really peaceful in here, because I make sure that that's the energy that I'm putting forward, that I'm clearing the space and replacing it and teaching the home how to maintain that long term. The best way to do that is with energy healing. There's no other method that is going to release the energetic patterns that are creating the low vibes, right? This is a big part of awakening. It's not just about what originates in here, it's about what you're existing in outside, out here. What are you existing in all the time? What energy are you spending your time in and reabsorbing? You need to get free of that. So energy healing is definitely the best thing that I've found, and it also means that you're going to change it long term. So you won't need to have to clear it every single day. Once you clear that energy and you reprogram it, you might need to reprogram it a couple of times to help it to stick. But once you've done that, your home space is always going to have that feeling of comfort when you come in the door, where you go to rest, where you go to work and you want to focus. Whatever it is you need to do, it's going to have that different feeling about it. And all that negativity has actually been released. Now, the key thing with that is, most energy clearing, because some people do use energy clearing to cleanse rooms and space. The problem is, what they tend to do is they only clear one room. And if you only clear one room, imagine that one little room and all the other rooms with all the negative energy, it's just going to collapse back in on it. And that extends further than just the room. So what I like to do is I like to clear the room. I like to clear the building, all the other rooms in the building that you're in right now. I like to clear the walls. I like to clear the roof, because the roof holds a lot of energy, particularly if it's one of those pointed roofs. All that energy kind of collects and it becomes really intense. And I also ensure that we clear the land, so the border of where your land actually finishes, of the space that you're living or working in, that includes the garden, because sometimes it's the outside space gets affected. And then what we do, the thing that you won't find anywhere else, is that we actually put a boundary up. So we're putting an energetic shield up that extends to the end of the limits of the land and the boundary that you're living in. Whether you're in a block of flats, it's an apartment, or whether you're on space where you've got land, you know, a little bit of land or garden to yourself, we're creating that energetic boundary, so that once we've cleared the energy and reprogrammed it, which no one else does, we're then also putting that boundary in place so that you don't start to get impacted by the negative energies of the people who live next door to you, or the other history that happened on the land. We even clear the land below the home, because it can have history on it as well. You've got to think about these things, and that's a big thing for us here in Scotland. You know, any type of space that you're in, generally we have a lot of history. The houses are old. Sometimes you're living in a house that's 100 years old or more. You know, the land that you're on has had a lot of serious history in it. So you want to make sure that, you know, space clearing one single room, which is what most people do, it's not enough. You're going to have to do it over and over and over again. And it's always confusing to me. I'm like, why do people only clear one room? You need to clear the entire space that you're living on, and then you need to put a boundary in place to keep the good energy in and the negative energy out. That's what's really important. Now, I'm going to answer some questions, but I want you to know that we actually have a full free masterclass all about this. I could talk about it all day because I think it's really, really exciting and fascinating. But we've got a free masterclass on how to energy cleanse your space, free yourself of toxic negativity, and radiate positivity effortlessly. So you're teaching your home to do that as well as yourself. Big step on the awakening pathway, and a really big way to get yourself out of a rut and out of that stuck energy. It's really awesome. So I've got the link in the description where you can take a look at that. And of course, we've also got our brand new energy cleansing, space clearing energy cleanse meditation. So it's a meditation that you're going to do where we do all of those things. So you can use it for the building that you're in, and we will clear not only the room, the walls, the ceiling, the land underneath, the land boundary, the garden. We're clearing all that space. We'll also clear you too, because the important thing is that as this negative energy starts to make an impact, it becomes, the way I perceive it is, it's almost like spider webs. It looks like webs all over us energetically, and we've been impacted by the negativity. And that's not just about how you feel energetically, it's about what's going on up here. Okay, because negative energy can kind of putting some negative thoughts into the mind space as well, and start to make you perceive things differently and have a bit of a pessimistic view, or feel like nothing's going to work out, or just really start to have a lot of negativity in the mind, get clear of it, move out of it. You are only going to stay in the same position that you're in, or fall backwards on the awakening pathway if you stay in that energy. You want to get out of it, you want to clear it out, and you want to move on. Okay, so if you want some help with that, of course, that's what our meditation is all about. You can use any of the methods listed below, but you'll just need to do them more often. Okay, but if you want some help with that and you want clearing for, you know, the home space, the room, the walls, the roof, underneath the floor, the garden, the history of the land, and yourself, we'll do that in our energy clearing meditation. So the link to it is below. You can take a little look and see if it feels like a fit for you. And I'm going to answer some questions as well. Okay, let's see. Let's see. So Enchante says, so what if in your household with people, you're in a household with people who believe in spirituality too, it to be like witchcraft and are strongly against it. I love to sage myself and kids outside, but the energies in the house are very heavy and annoying to me. Well, that's where I think probably energy healing to clear would be better for you. Now you can get things like incense that will do some clearing for you that aren't sage. So incense probably would be a better choice if the other people are okay with that in your home. But the one thing you can definitely do that's not going to get in anyone's way is energy. You do it through energy healing, because you're going to do that cleanse, you're going to do it in your own space, it's going to clear the entire house. It's not going to bother anybody with loud sounds like the Tibetan singing bowl, or strong smells, or any associations with anything that could be considered witchcraft or uncomfortable or frightening to anyone. It's just healing. It's just healing for your home. So that might be a better way to do it. I can see Natasha's asking if I've got any messages. I'm not doing messages in this particular video, but in the next week or two we'll be doing more card readings. So come along to that. Let's see, Gina's asking what's the best for kind of evil cleanser. She's talking about evil entities. Well, sometimes these do get attached to us, so it is important to clean your home space, because if you have entities attached to you, the negative environment is kind of feeding them. It's like it makes it a more hospitable place for them to be, so you want to raise that vibration. So my best advice would be to do an entity cleanse, which if you're looking for one in particular, we actually have that on our site. If you click on the link in the description and go into our school, there's a library, and we've got one there called the Entity Cleanse, and it will cleanse your entire space. But there are specifics that need to be done when you're working with entities, and that's really if they're just in your space. If it's something that's a soul attachment, you might need a personal session with an energy healer to really remove it, but that does tend to work really well. And then I would use the space clearing, so I would use two together, so that you're clearing the space of the energy around about you so that it's not hospitable to them anymore, and then clearing them from your personal space, your energy. I think that's really important. I can see Enchante says, rewrite the story of your childhood. That's where most of our traumas come from. Absolutely, and I'm really excited to tell you we're going to be getting into that a lot over the next month. We're going to be getting into a lot of childhood healing stuff, so get the space cleared, because we're about to do a lot more healing, and you're going to need to keep clearing while we're doing healing as well. Very, very important. Okay, so I think I've covered everything. Space clearing is important, vital part of your spiritual awakening toolkit that you're going to need to make it through okay, and you want to be doing this as often as you can. With our meditation, if you use that instead, you're not going to be bothering anybody, and you'll be able to play it once might be enough. You'll be able to play it maybe a couple of times, a few days in a row, and then you'll find that the energy will stick, and you'll have a better vibration to be in long term. So take a look at in the description and see if it feels like a fit for you, and don't miss the free masterclass. It's on there. Just click on the link and watch it now. We've had some really great reviews on it, and I know people really enjoy it. I think it's just fascinating. So onwards and upwards with the positive energy. Let's get shifted that negative energy, and let's move into a much better vibration. I hope you're all well. Take care.